Thanks for joining us for this conversation with Roghnu. We'll be discussing accounts payable automation with the team at Roghnu, a Sage Intacct and Ottimate partner. We'll cover how Ottimate works specifically for Sage users. I'll be your moderator, Hannah O'Brien, and we'll be joined by Joseph Lombardi and Matt Wallach from Ottimate to walk us through the platform. Let's get started.
Yeah, hi, my name is Josh Castleman. I'm the Sage Intacct Practice Director here at Roghnu. We've been focused on Sage Intacct for about 10 years now, and so we're looking forward to the opportunity to evaluate Ottimate.
My name is Eric Norfleet. I'm the account executive at Roghnu, responsible for business development and any new business.
And I'm Mike Hubbard. I'm the customer success manager here at Roghnu. I handle renewals and add-ons.
We'll just kind of dive in. First, I want to start by asking you, Joe, kind of high level, how does Ottimate and Sage work together?
So Ottimate and Sage connect via an API integration, and what that means is we can directly not only sync with a user's Sage Intacct environment, but we can bring in all of their relevant vendors and chart of accounts upon onboarding and always sync that information to Ottimate. And then when invoices are approved and ready to be exported back to the user's Intacct environment, they will be able to do so instantly and automatically at any type of interval they choose, starting from every hour up to maybe at the end of the day, twice a day, whatever is most convenient for them. And when we do send over those invoices from Ottimate to Sage Intacct, they will include the invoice image, a link back to Ottimate, as well as all the relevant information that was on that invoice. When I've worked with a number of clients in the healthcare industry, they often have a lot of different dimensional requirements. And so the great thing about Ottimate is that we're able to adapt to all those different dimensional requirements, whether those are jobs or classes or maybe employee codes, or even items. If they're ordering specific items for inventory purposes, we're able to capture all that information in Ottimate and send it over to their Sage environment. We utilize a internal tool that allows us to capture all their dimensions that they're utilizing and populate them with the appropriate criterias or fields that are set up in their Sage environment. So I'll go through a little bit of the Ottimate platform, and then when we get to the approval process and the export, I'm going to show you how our export integration works. We're going to actually do a live export of an invoice from Ottimate to the Sage environment. And then when that's completed, we can cover any questions there. How does that sound, Hannah?
Sounds great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Alrighty, let me bring up my screen here. Okay, so today we're going to do a demo of the Ottimate platform. I just want to kind of set the stage here. I am an administrator, so I have the full functionality of Ottimate at my fingertips. We also have a couple of UI pieces that I want to cover up here up front. First being that we have our North Star here at the top. So if you're a multi-entity company, you'll be able to navigate to your specific different regions or districts or entities, if you will, and you'll be able to have individual locations receiving invoices within Ottimate at your fingertips. So you can look at your whole organization just by clicking the All Locations button here, but you'll also be able to drill down to a specific location as well if you wanted to do that. And when it comes to healthcare, whether it's a senior center or a biotech firm or even maybe doctor's offices, we're able to kind of manage any type of different healthcare entity in the space as long as they're doing accounts payable. So I think that, this can be a great solution for them. Now, coming back to this North Star again, we'll be just covering it from a high level, but you're always able to filter with this North Star. And then another thing that I want to mention here as well, because it is relevant, we offer unlimited users in Ottimate, which is really important and I think a great feature because in Sage Intacct specifically, I know they do charge by the user. So maybe you might be a little more budget conscious when it comes to allowing certain users access to Sage Intacct. But when it comes to Ottimate, you're able to bring all of your users into our software, meaning that you can optimize and be most efficient with your accounts payable process, get everybody involved who needs to be, and not worry about whether you're buying additional licenses or anything like that. But in order to get your invoices into Ottimate, the first thing we need to do is upload them, and we offer 4 different methods of uploading into Ottimate. And the first one, my favorite one, the one that everybody mostly uses, is the unique email address. So each location that is receiving invoices in your organization will have their own unique email address in Ottimate. What this means is you can forward emails from Outlook or Gmail. You can have vendors send them directly to this email address. It's a great way and a very easy way to get those invoices into Ottimate in a very quick and easy fashion. When I used Ottimate as an end user, I used to have scanners at all of my operating locations, which were programmed with the Ottimate email address, meaning my operating team members who received invoices could just drop them on the scanner, press the Ottimate button, and have them uploaded into the software very easily. Next method of uploading is you can browse your computer for a file to upload or just drag and drop. Now, the great thing about Ottimate is whether you have 330 or 300 invoices in a PDF file, and again, that could be coming from the scanner as well or forwarded from the email. When you have that many invoices in that PDF, Ottimate is capable of separating all those invoices out and able to process them all and keep all the pages together. The great thing about that as well is you don't need any separator pages like some of our competitors need. It's a very easy process, and you don't need to worry about the stacks of invoices that you might be uploading and worrying about whether things are going to be sorted correctly. Ottimate does that for you. So those are the first 2 methods of uploading. Third method of uploading is we do have a mobile app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. You can download this app, open it up on your phone, and snap a photo of an invoice and upload into Ottimate in that manner. And finally, if you are utilizing a broadline or national distributor, maybe say an Ecolab or a Cintas or some other vendor like that, you'll be able to connect to them via an EDI and get your invoices into Ottimate instantaneously. To the Roghnu team, are you all familiar with EDI invoices at all?
Yes, yeah, that's a great feature for those that are purchasing from the big warehouse vendors. So very cool.
Yes, certainly. And one of the great value adds of Ottimate is we will set those up for you at no additional cost. We're very happy to have as many EDI feeds as you need to get your invoices into Ottimate, and then it just makes it easier on you. And again, no cost to maintain or set those up. We do it at onboarding.
And just to add to that point, Joe, you brought up a really great point, and why we are in partnership with Roghnu is the fact that Roghnu really understands these businesses that they're working with, and Josh and Eric and Mike have been working very closely with me and our team here at Ottimate to make sure that the solution we're providing is perfectly matches the client's needs. So really important there on why working together with Roghnu and Ottimate is very beneficial.
Thanks for that, Matt. All right, so those are the 4 methods of uploading into Ottimate. We do also have the instant capture method. This is kind of the 5th method, is a newer feature that we offer. It's certainly the fastest way to get an invoice digitized, but it does require a little more effort on the user's end. We will not be covering that on this demo, but noted that it is there in those instances where you really need to get an invoice processed in a short amount of time. Because typically when you upload your invoices to Ottimate, they do go through an OCR, machine learning, and AI process to digitize your invoices from top to bottom. And what that means is when those invoices are digitized, they are going to capture all the information here at the top, the header information, the invoice number, the invoice date, the ship to address, the vendor name, etc. All that is captured by Ottimate using our software stack. And then we're also going to capture all the line item detail here as well. And the great thing about capturing all that line item detail is you can set up rules to automatically map those line items to your GL accounts. And as you can see here, we already do have some of these items mapped to those GL accounts. Ottimate did that automatically based on the rules set by the users. Now, a couple other features on the UI before we get into how we set those rules. We do have an account splits tab here, which is going to show you the different GL accounts that are being mapped to on this particular invoice. We also have an approvals tab here, so you can see all the different approvers that are required on this particular invoice. And then finally, we have a history tab showing the life of the invoice as it went through Ottimate and how long it took to upload, all that type of good stuff. To come back to what I was talking about, when we talk about instant capture versus our normal process, if you put it through our normal Ottimate process, it can take anywhere up to 24 hours, typically around 6 to 12 is what I normally see for invoices. But again, if you wanted to get an invoice in really quickly with a little extra effort on the user side of things, you can use our instant capture, which will get it in much quicker. But you'll have to do a little more mapping on your side. So any questions before I dive into the workflow?
I don't think so.
Awesome. So I do want to point out here as well, we're showing one dimension here, but we can certainly accommodate as many dimensions as are needed for the different clients that are working with Roghnu. And the great thing about Ottimate is regardless of the type of client you might be working with or their organizational structure, we can configure Ottimate to adapt to their structure, and we can have any type of multiple configurations if the client requires that as well. But when we talk about the workflow, we want to start with our needs attention bucket. And so when your invoices are uploaded into Ottimate, they're now part of your digital filing cabinet, which means they can be searched by any information on the invoice that has been captured by Ottimate. And so here we do have a number of invoices that require some attention on our part. It seems we have some unmapped items, and we're going to show you how to map those items. It's a very easy process. I'm going to pull up this library invoice here. And as we can see, we have this catheter that has never been mapped before, and we need to teach Ottimate how to map it. And so when we have this type of situation, we're going to have a little drop down here, and Ottimate is actually going to suggest GL accounts that have already been utilized with this vendor so that users might not have to guess at what GL account needs to be mapped, because sometimes the users that are mapping these invoices aren't financial team members and they might be unsure about what GL account they need to map with. So here we're going to select operating supplies because that's where I want to map it to today. And as we can see now, Ottimate has asked me, do I always automatically want to map it to this GL account? Only this time or always manually? And in the case of this particular item, I'm going to select always automatically, which means that Ottimate will remember forever that I want to map this item to this GL account. And you can always update that at any given time to a different GL if you wanted to. And the great thing about Ottimate as well is you can set up specific default GLs for certain vendors, so you don't even have to worry about this particular process if you don't want to. If you know that that particular vendor, maybe like an electricity utility, is always going to the electricity GL, you just set it up as a default GL, and then you don't even have to map any invoice coming in. It's already going to be mapped to that GL. But coming back to our workflow, again, the needs attention bucket is going to be where you're going to see a lot of your exceptions. And I'm just going to filter out to my broader organization here so I can show you some other instances or issues that might pop up. So if you need to map a new vendor in Ottimate, you'll be required to do that in the needs attention bucket. That's just linking your vendor in Ottimate to the vendor in your Sage Intacct environment so that when we export it, it's going to populate in the right vendor field. We also are going to flag any invoice duplicates. Here is an EDI invoice that is a duplicate invoice. It has been flagged in that manner. And so when we need to resolve those particular issues, we actually have an option to look at both invoices, the duplicates, to make sure that we're keeping the right one, or maybe we want to keep both. Ottimate will tell you about those instances where that happens. There are other reasons for flagging an invoice. Maybe it's in the future, or maybe there's some other information that is on there as well that Ottimate did not capture. I do want to mention that when Ottimate does digitize your invoices, it's very good at picking up a lot of information, but sometimes it's unsure. And in those instances, we will put it in front of one of the humans in our team to validate any information that's on there so that we can make sure that we're still capturing it. Unlike our competition, where humans are the primary way that they get all the information digitized on those invoices, we are a tech-forward company. We utilize our tech stack first, and I'm proud to say that approximately 75 to 80% of all invoices uploaded to Ottimate today are fully digitized and do not go in front of any humans within our organization. But once you've navigated through the needs attention bucket, now we're going to see invoices in the your approval bucket, which means they're invoices that I, Joe Lombardi, have to approve, or the pending approval bucket, which are any other additional invoices that are waiting approval for by other users in my organization. So here I have a number of invoices that I need to approve, and it's a very simple process to do this. I'm just going to click on the first invoice here, and I can even use the arrow keys on my keyboard. I can just cycle through these invoices, review them for all the mappings that we have on them, determine if everything is correct. If I need to make a edit, I can always do so with this edit button here. I can also split it amongst a number of GLs if I wanted to as well. It's a very easy process. And then I'll continue to review my invoices as I'm going through them. And then when I'm done reviewing them, I can just come out here in Ottimate and bulk select all of them and click the approve button here because I'm happy with everything that's on those invoices. Now, once I do approve them, if they are required to be approved by another user in the organization, they will end up in that pending approval bucket. But if not, they'll end up in this pending export bucket here, ready to be sent over to Sage Intacct. Now, before I show you the integration and we do that demonstration here, I do want to talk about our approval policies. We have built a rules engine in Ottimate, which allows users to build any type of complex or simple approval policy within their organization. So I'm going to zoom out here for a second, and I have a bunch of different approval policies here. The first one being a basic approval policy, which just means any invoice that has come in through Ottimate, well, it needs to go through me, Joe Lombardi. I need to just validate that it's an invoice that we need to pay. And so we create this basic approval policy here, and I'm the approver on it. Now I can also add Ben as a second approver, and now it can be me or Ben that needs to approve these invoices. But if I increase the minimum approvers to 2, now it's me and Ben who have to approve these invoices. But the truth is that I actually report to Ben, so we're going to escalate after 2 days any of my approvals to Ben. This way Ben can monitor my productivity as well as determine whether or not I'm being overloaded. It's a great way to make sure that the AP process doesn't slow down, but at the same time you're keeping tabs on all your users and making sure that things are working as efficiently as possible within the AP process. Now, let's jump out of here for a second because we just created this basic approval policy, and now I'm going to use that to build a second approval policy. Kind of think of this as a sequential approval policy, if you will, because now we can use those policies as conditions for future policies. And in this case here, we're talking about any invoice that's over $5,000. And so any invoice that's over $5,000 and has been approved under that basic approval policy that I was talking about, now that needs to go in front of my colleague Laura. And so Laura is going to approve any of those invoices, but she won't know she needs to approve those invoices until I've already approved them, until they've been satisfied by the previous criteria. So we have a number of different ways that we can build our approval policies. We're just showing total more than and policy here, but we can also use vendors as a criterion. We can also do a department or a GL account, or even if it was received directly from a vendor or has unmapped items. This is a great way to centralize the mapping process in the organization, make sure that the proper team members are the ones setting up the mapping rules so that there's no confusion and everything is consistent with what the organization needs. Now, I have been talking for a bit here, so does anyone have any questions about approval policies and how they work?
I don't have any questions, so that's very thorough. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I do want to mention as well, I'm sorry, Matt, you had a question.
I was going to just add that in the conversations that Josh and I have already had with some of Roghnu's clients, I mean, the ease of setting up a complex approval workflow, and not necessarily complex, but to match a client's process, the ease of doing that has been a huge plus, and it's been a huge value add for the conversations we've been having.
For sure. I do want to mention too, one of the great things about our approval policies is if you do need to update them at any time, the invoices that are applicable to be approved under those policies will retroactively change if they have not yet been fully approved, meaning you can real-time update approval policies and make sure that all the invoices applicable do get captured as well. But we've kind of covered the whole core AP workflow at this point, so I think it's time we showcase the integration method with Ottimate. I'm going to jump into a different demo environment here because this particular environment that I'm using right now is not set up with a connection to Sage Intacct, but I do have one that is, so I'm going to do that right now. And so first I'm going to bring up our Sage environment here, and I do want to point out that this is all relevant data right here that we're seeing here on the screen. And you can see the latest invoice here is from December 29th. I'm doing this just to kind of show you that we've already set this up to have your invoices brought over, but we haven't populated it already. I wanted to make that clear. But let's go to the demo environment. I have an invoice here that I do want to bring over. And the first thing that I want to do here before I bring this over is I'm just going to update the information here at the top because I do want to show you that we're bringing in an invoice in real time. So today is January 9th. We'll make it today's date. We'll also forward the due date to say January 31st. And we're also going to change the invoice number to ROG. Now, I'm going to just save the changes here. This invoice is already approved. And so now I'm just going to click the export button. And again, we can automate the export because it is an API export with Ottimate. And so now that I've clicked the export button, you can see here now this pill at the top that says exported. It was done just now, January 9th. And I'm going to go back to our Intacct environment here. I'm going to refresh. And as we can see here, now we have this invoice here at the top. So I don't know if anybody had a stopwatch, but that was probably about 30 seconds. But I'm going to click up this view button here. And now we have a number of great things that we can see here. First being, we have the invoice link back to Ottimate right here. So you can just click this link and it'll take you back to the Ottimate software. And we also have a link to the PDF image right in Sage Intacct as well. So that invoice image is right here. We're always going to send that over to Sage Intacct when we export. So you'll always have a copy of your invoices within Sage as well. And then we also have mapped the GL account here at the bottom. Any questions?
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, I just want to say that's impressive. And I know that makes a difference for a lot of users. And it also saves a lot of time, which is super important in the AP process.
For sure. Yeah, we want to get rid of as much data entry as possible. That's our intentions here. I do want to show one more thing, which I have it not in this location, but in a different location, which is I have a bread and butter invoice that I wanted to show you because we're also able to facilitate intercompany transactions. So in this case here, we have this invoice that is a public relations invoice for bread and butter. And here we're actually mapping to 2 dimensions. And not only are we mapping to 2 dimensions, but we're actually mapping to a GL account and a location to facilitate that intercompany transactions. And so coming back to this account splits tab, we can see here how we're splitting all the different GLs and the different locations. So we can make it very easy to populate the information in Sage to create those due to and due from transactions to really facilitate any type of intercompany transaction. So splitting is not anything foreign to us. And I know that that happens with a lot of our users. So I wanted to bring that up as well. All right. So we just covered the core AP function. There's a couple more things that I do want to cover here on this demo. We are able to do purchase orders. It's not covered on this demo, but we do have a purchase order match feature. So for organizations that are doing purchase orders, we can facilitate the matching function within Ottimate. And I know that that is a great value add for some of our clients. But I do want to show you our statements tool because some users might be reconciling statements manually today. The great thing about Ottimate is that we can reconcile your statements for you. So I'm just going to pull up this particular statement here that we received from Helmet Gas Products. And as you can see, there are a number of different invoices that are on this statement. And here in Ottimate, we are flagging any invoice that has been listed on the statement, but Ottimate has never seen before. And so I have a number of these credits, as we can see here, as well as invoices that are missing. And then we also have an invoice here that is there as well. So we can reconcile all your statements. You can even create the missing invoices or credits right from the screen here. But actually, I like to use the email vendor button, which will populate an email to send to the vendor, include all the missing invoice information or credit memos there as well. And then the vendor can send it right back to that email address, the unique email address for those groups, very easily, and get the process started.
That's pretty cool. That's very slick.
Yeah, this is a great feature, and I believe we are the only AP automation tool in the market today that is offering this particular feature. And again, no additional cost to the user as part of our core AP function. So now we're going to showcase vendor pay, which is the final portion of this demo today. This is what we consider a separate product to Ottimate. So we have the core AP product, which I showed you before. Now we're doing vendor pay. This is a separate SaaS fee, although it is not a significant one. It's kind of like an add-on, if you will. And the great thing about our vendor pay product is it allows you to pay all of your vendors directly through Ottimate and potentially earn some rebates as well. Because we offer 3 different methods of payment. I'm going to jump into them in a little bit later, but they are virtual cards, ACH, and checks, and I'll show you how all that works. But first thing we want to do is we do want to select some invoices for payment, and so you can do that in 2 different ways. First way being you can look at all of your total unpaid invoices and just simply select the boxes here, and then schedule those bills to be paid right from the screen here if you wanted to do that. Or if you prefer, and I know that for a lot of our Power Accounting users, they like to look by location, so they can pick a specific location where they want to issue payments from, and they can just hit the drop down here to select the payments that they want to issue. We're going to show you exactly how much you're paying that particular vendor. And then when you hit Create Payment button here, now those payments are going to end up in this Pending Approval tab. And so in this Pending Approval tab, this is where all the payments will sit until the members of the organization that need to approve these payments can review them and approve them for payment. And the great thing about our tool is if you are a VP of finance or maybe a CFO, you may not be in the office all the time, but you still want to see those invoices. You want to review those payments, make sure everything is accurate. You're always able to review them from Ottimate wherever you are because we are cloud-based, and you can easily just select the invoice on a particular payment and review it for any type of accuracy, see who approved it, just like you could in our core AP product. It's a very easy process, but you always have that ability to do so from the pending approval page, and you can just cycle through them just like we did with our approvals. Review all those payments, make any edits that you might need to make. You can even approve the payment here. And once you have approved all those payments, I'm going to do so in bulk here just by clicking the approve button. Now they're going to go to scheduled payments. And when they're in the scheduled payments bucket, that just means they're pending issuance by Ottimate. And when they have been issued, now they're going to be in this pending export bucket, ready to be sent over to Sage Intacct and linked to the associated invoices that are being paid through the payment. So just like our invoices are being created in Sage Intacct, we're also going to create those payment vouchers and close out the invoice, if you will. Now, I did mention that we have 3 methods of payment in Ottimate. First one being vCard. So vCard, if you're not familiar with them, are virtual cards. And the great thing about our virtual cards is we're able to offer to our clients a rebate for every virtual card issued starting at 50 basis points. So in this case here, this $500 payment, the client will see a $2.50 rebate when the card is processed. And when the card is sent to the vendor, this is what they will see. You can even review the card details. It may load here, it may not. Sometimes I have some issues here, but this is what the vendor will see. It is a Visa branded card, so they will be able to swipe it. And the reason we're able to generate those rebates is because the vendor is accepting the interchange on the card, and that interchange does get reflected back to us. And we share that with the client. Now, that is the V card. Again, our primary method of payment. I should say priority method of payment. It is the most secure. It is a single-use card. It has a fixed amount. It can only be used once. And the great thing about it is the vendor gets it very quickly and can charge it when at their leisure. Now, if they do not want to accept virtual cards, we can always offer them ACH as well. ACH transactions typically take between 3 to 5 business days, although we can do fast ACH if that's required by the client for an additional fee. But with the ACH, they do have a remittance stub that gets sent to them as well. And so they're always able to see all their payments in Ottimate, navigating to their own vendor portal if they're receiving payments. Now, I do want to mention here that vCards and ACH transactions carry no fees associated with them in Ottimate. The exception being that fast ACH that I mentioned. So again, no transaction fees for our standard ACH and vCard. I know that this is something that sets us apart from a lot of our competition as well. But we do have the third method of payment being our standard checks. We will print stuff and mail a check on behalf of the client. And when we do issue check payments, there is an associated $1.39 per check fee for these types of payments. But the great thing about our check payments is these are checks issued with the client's banking information on them. So the client will always retain their outstanding check float whenever checks are issued by Ottimate. And this is what the vendor will receive, and the client won't see those funds leave their bank account until the check is presented for clearance at the bank. Now, I do want to mention too that one of the great things about Ottimate is we do not lump sum draft all the payments at once. So unlike a lot of our competition, which does perform that action, they just want to hold on to the funds and gain interest on that escrow money while those payments are being sorted out and received by the different vendors. We do not do that. We do a one-to-one bank transaction, meaning you issue 10 payments out of Ottimate, you're going to see 10 transactions in your bank account, which should make reconciliation at the end of every month very easy. I know that I found it very easy when I was using Ottimate. Now, once those once those payments are exported to Sage Intacct, you will see them there. You will always have a payment calendar accessible to you, so you can see all the payments that were issued to the different vendors that you were paying them. You can review these whenever you want. I can see here I issued a bunch of different payments here on November 8th. And then you also have an all payments tab here, so you can see all the different payments that were issued through Ottimate. You can even filter them by the different payment methods as well. And I think this is a good time to talk about reports. So we do have a number of reports out of the box. One of my favorites that I know a lot of our clients ask for is this accrual report. Basically, it's a listing of all the invoices that are currently going through process within Ottimate, which allows the financial team members to accrue for those expenses before they get approved or before they're entered into Sage Intacct. We also have an AP aging by invoice or by vendor. And then we have this approval aging report here as well, which is a great report for seeing all the users in the software that have approvals outstanding and ways to send them notifications to ask them, hey, can you please get back into Ottimate, approve your invoices because we got to close the books. We can't let the AP process slow down. Really easy way to manage that as well. So I know that I've been talking for a bit now, but that does cover the Ottimate demo from tip to tail, as we like to say. But it was a pleasure showing you all the product today. Do you have any questions before I turn it back over to Matthew and Hannah?
I don't have any. Sorry. So one of the things that I think you commented on, and I think it's important for prospects to understand, is that where there are users that may or may not otherwise require access to Sage Intacct, this allows them to perform a lot of these approval and or coding and various activities outside of Sage Intacct proper. And so from a subscription standpoint, it allows them to get more employee or colleague engagement at a reasonable price point. It's simply because you're not charging by user.
Yeah, that's correct.
100%. So feel free to bring in, all your employees, because there's cases with, our spend management platform or module where you can do employee reimbursements. Well, each employee can then have their own login at no additional fee.
Yeah,
That's true. And you can even bring in third-party, maybe auditors or other users who aren't in the organization but may need to have access to invoices.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say too, a couple things that we know have been helpful for other users in the healthcare industry is, like Matt said, the multitude of use cases. And there's a lot of invoices that come into those facilities. You have pharmacy invoices, and even you can use it for, if you have contract employees that are billing you for work, that's something that you can process. They can send you their invoices, and you can make sure that that's charted. I do have one question, Joe, that I don't think we touched on. I'd love to hear a little bit about, security and compliance when it comes to Ottimate. I know that's something that's super important in the healthcare industry and other industries dealing with, sensitive information. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, we certainly offer single sign-on if that's required by an organization. We can also do multi-factor authentication, so you can make sure that the proper users are accessing Ottimate. We also are utilizing Amazon Web Servers with triple redundancy, so you can be sure that Ottimate will stay up 99.99999% of the time. I think we had one downtime for less than 2 hours last year, which was due to Amazon, not to Ottimate. So we'll always be up when you need us to be. And then when it comes to the security of the invoices and the encryption, there will be no way that anyone can actually issue payments or download invoices unless they have access to the software and have those proper permissions. We make sure about that.
And to add to what Joe said, we are also SOC 2 compliant. So anybody interested, we can always work with Roghnu to give you access to those reports if that's part of your selection process.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions before we wrap up?
Just a quick question, when we were working with customers and you've got someone excited and they're ready to go, what is a kind of a estimated timeline that it takes to get someone from yes to up and running?
Sure, that's a great question. So obviously, we would want to meet with the customer and understand their structure within Sage Intacct and really understand their AP process as well. Really kind of do a little bit of discovery to know their organization and how best we can serve them. But once they do sign the agreement and get started with us, it really is, I would say, anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks to get up and running. And that's really because, you have to start by teaching Ottimate how your invoices do get mapped and coded. So you're going to have to, upload a bunch of invoices and do the initial mappings at first, but we do offer unlimited trainings. It's typically the first training call is going to show you how to use Ottimate and how to do your different mappings. And then the second training call is going to show you how to use your vendor pay and answer any additional questions. And then we do a 30-day check-in after that. But really, it's a very intuitive software. So as long as your team members are familiar with the accounts payable process, they should have no issues picking up the software and utilizing it. We were very intentional in the way we designed the UI so that even the lowest level employee who may not really be that tech savvy can still pick up our software and utilize it. But again, when it comes to kind of succeeding in onboarding, it's best when a client is really engaged and wants to have the software and wants to be excited about it. That's where I find the most success. And I've seen clients get up and running in under 3 weeks as well. So, if they really want to put their nose to the grindstone and really get things going, they can do so. We're able to move at their pace. And just to talk about support as well, I mentioned we do have unlimited trainings. Each client gets assigned a customer service manager from day one that is with them for their life of Ottimate. And if they ever have any questions, they have a direct line to that CSM. So they don't have to submit tickets. They can just contact their representative and help get certain issues solutioned in a very quick and easy fashion.
Yeah. And then also working in partnership with Roghnu, Josh and Eric and Mike have a direct line into me, their partner manager. So you actually benefit from having two avenues of problem solving as it pertains to Ottimate. So, and just to be clear, just because you have a partner in Roghnu doesn't mean you won't have your own dedicated account manager, because you will. So it's a huge plus.
Very good. Well, great. This was great. Joseph, thanks so much. It was very informative. Very nice presentation. And I think there's really a lot of opportunity there to help some of our clients. I think they're going to be very, very pleased with the options that are available.
It was my pleasure, Josh. Thank you.
That concludes our conversation with Roghnu. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to one of the contacts on the screen to learn how Roghnu or Ottimate can help your business with accounts payable automation. We look forward to hearing from you soon.